Hello and welcome back again to the Advancement Centre, and welcome to the world of magic and miracles. As I start to connect to each one of you, you'll find that it's much quicker than other weeks because we're about to jump right in to the world beyond worlds to make sure that you look back and forward and you can see both angles at once. We're about to be very practical in the sense that the elevated platform of living is where you reside, and you can see everything else happening from there, but you don't have to step into it. So now you can look forward from there and you can look backwards from there, and you don't lose your position ever. This is the point of no return. You don't have to do anything except look forward, and when you look back, the picture will be old. It won't have any depth. It'll be as if you're watching it on a movie and you weren't there. The effects are about to be taken away so that the special energies that you've been working with don't have to work so hard. The senses that belong to you, that have been holding your world in place, are now going on a holiday so that they can reformat to be able to look forward to a future that performs by itself exactly the way you see it. Not the way your mind plans it, not the way the advertising tells you, but the way you see it from that elevated platform of living that you've all started to experience. I spoke to Barbara the other day and said, you know, it's time we realize that everybody that's grown up. They don't need to be treated like they don't know. They came here with full information and they've been convinced that they don't know. So from here on in, I'll treat you all as if you know. And there'll be no explanation, you don't need it. It'll just be us all floating out there and here and everywhere else and being the people that we know we really are. Nothing to do with what we say to one another, nothing to do with anything. But from where you're standing, there's no need to even interact because the interaction is already there. You feel one another, you know one another's position, you help one another not by giving aid, but by being there, by interacting without running into anyone, by moving in and out of all sorts of things because you want to, or because that's where you lead when you follow your spirit. This amazing part of life that you're about to walk into is yours forever. It's not anything anybody can take from you. It was only painted over. You never ever lost it. You know it backwards. And you know that if you raise your hand to touch someone 1,000 miles away, they feel it. You know if you send your essence to somebody, they can live off it. They can use your energy because you have so much, you don't need it. A person can be held up that can't even stand up because you say, here, use my energy. Use anything that interacts with your world perfectly because it doesn't belong to anyone. Everything that you experience moves on. It stays for as long as you need it. And then it's either gone or it's recreated or it's a memory. But even as a memory, unless you work at it, it's of no use to you. It's like food. You eat it and you use it and it moves on. Every experience is the same. that our experiences from other worlds are now available. And it sounds freaky to people who aren't used to that sort of talk. But in fact, it's the most comfortable thing in all of our existence, where we can say the parts of us that are hanging out in other worlds are now available. We can actually not call on them, but be there, because we stepped out of where we were that couldn't contain our full being, and we go into that unlimited world of reality that contains all of us. And when I say all of us, I mean each individual has so much and so many aspects, they don't even have time for somebody else. The interaction between us is not direct. It's through millions and millions of different connections that we don't have to service. The old system where we had to communicate with one another and get in touch with one another was so antiquated, we had to keep shutting off every part of ourselves so that we could communicate with someone. So you had one channel open out of 50 million. It makes you feel a little depleted. And so you start to find that where we are now, it's really hard to talk about even what's happened in the rest of your life, because you're not really interested in what's happened or what's happening or where you're going or what's coming next, because the excitement comes from everywhere, and the only way you can be there is to be everywhere. The only way you can experience your whole self is if you're everywhere. You don't leave one thing out, not even if it's branded as obnoxious. It just suddenly hits your field and disappears into the size of a pinhead, because the relative part of everything that we know adjusts itself, not automatically, but by natural process. And the natural process is the one that we're working with, the one where you can actually enjoy every moment, see it and feel it and have it. On a special day like today with Mother's Day, it's a day of heart and of mutual respect and harmony that everybody's happy to bring to the world for one day. And that's because everyone can handle one day without disturbing all the other rubbish in the world. So all them processes are really not disturbed by one day. And so it fits in okay, and then you get over it and you have another crap day tomorrow. But in fact, if you look at every moment, each moment can be accepted by the systems that be without disturbing them. And you can have a perfect moment, every moment, and the systems around you are not disturbed. The problem with the whole thing is that each moment is yours. The big picture belongs to something and somebody else, and you're really not living that big picture. You're living your moments. Because how elevated you are as beings, you can do that. You can have a lifetime in a moment. But the system can't. So it's a big elongated painting that you visit every now and then to go and pick up your pay or whatever, and you obey various rules. But even in those moments, you can be in a moment of perfection. No matter where you're standing or what you're doing, or whether you're traveling or whether you're on your head, the moment comes to you in its perfection, and it gives you a world that's probably bigger than the world you've lived. So once we go into those little moments, our life expands. thousands and thousands of times. So even when you're just sitting here and listening to my voice, you can feel there's much more. You can feel so much that you don't describe, and you don't need to, that there's not even any interest in what the words are. And this is the aim for the future. The aim is to go with what is natural within each one of you, but dare to stretch it beyond all limits, and then find where it's really straining and just step over it and watch it disappear behind you. Every moment of your life will be taken up by the thrill of the strange things that can happen if you want to try it. If you want to actually see what you would feel like if the wind was blowing, you can do it. If you wanted to see what you feel like if you're floating, you can do it. Because the world has said, unless you can be photographed up in the air, you can't fly. That's not true. You're always flying. You're always all over the place. And look at the number of people who say, you've got to ground yourself. How crazy is that? That's so that they can catch up with your movement. That's so they can stop you being the brilliant being that you are. And the fact is, they can't touch you, they can't connect with you unless you're grounded. And the fact that many things have come up to say, well, you don't make sense unless you're grounded. Your life doesn't work right unless you're grounded. The sequence of events doesn't work right. Reverse all them, and you've got where we are now. Nothing's in sequence, nothing's in order, nothing's grounded, and we're everywhere. And we're living at an elevated spot that has no limitation, and I got a friendly fly again. So once we decide that it's okay to not relate to the rules of the world, then you don't need them. They don't actually exist. They're made up, and they don't do anything except try to keep you within a limited field where you can't be a person. Nobody did that. That's just, if you put everybody in an environment and you don't encourage advancement, that's what eventually happens. It's like if you put your feet in water for too long, they go all funny. The skin starts to fall to pieces because you've got no movement. But you can move in water and be in water all your life as long as there's movement and there's no decay. In our world, there's no decay if there's movement. And the movement is not in running around the block. It's not in moving your arms. It's in your whole being, never staying still, never focusing on one thing, but knowing everything. Finding that you've done something and you did it perfectly and you can't even remember. That's the natural function of the real being. The natural function that comes with us when we're children. We're never still. Have you ever seen a baby lay still? You try and tie them up to keep them from being too active. They'll get out somehow. And they keep moving. As we grow up, if we don't move, we don't dissipate what has to pass on. If I can explain that a little bit further, it's not just what goes in our mouth and out our backside that determines the movement within our system. There is a movement through every cell, every second. It doesn't come from food. It comes from the light, it comes from the energy, it comes from movement of the energy fields, of the interaction between one another that is smooth. Head-on stuff kills all that movement. So there's no such thing where we are now, because we don't even care where one another is, because we know we can't run into them. We're all so different. We can exist in overlaying fields. We're sitting in the same chair sometimes, and we're feeling the person that was there before. We're interacting with now and the past and the future. And many times you'll stand somewhere and say, wow, this feels really strange. Then you go, ah, I know the person that was standing there. And you feel it all. And you wonder how that works. And then you just walk away. But in fact, we are interacting on levels that you can't see all the time. And as that interaction happens, our growth happens. When we stop that, we get old. Our bodies might look like they're getting old, but in fact, you talk to the person inside there, they're getting younger. And they're getting younger in preparation for the time when they realize the movement will reload everything into their body. They might still look the same, but they'll actually operate as efficiently as a 10-year-old. So this is where we're all moving. Expectation is something that only comes from the past. You can't have an expectation about the future unless you relate it to the past. So as we look at expectation, it'll melt. And it doesn't matter what it is. It can be something good, bad, or even a sore leg. It will melt because it's based on expectation. As you move forward and the movement is happening, you leave those things behind. It might take a little bit of time, but you do leave them behind. And every one of us can remember the time when we had such and such wrong with us and really can't figure where it went. We left it behind. So as we work on moving into the future a little more, and we remember Mother's Day, you'll see that every one of us can instantly change the nature of a day because it has a name. We can do exactly the same in every part of our life by not having a name. As we see our definitions come up in front of us, we cancel them, you'll feel yourself go whoosh, and you become bigger, more active. Your eyes are brighter. There's no pressure on you. And then when you hear, well, I should do, you just shake your head a little bit, look from another place, and watch it go. It's like somebody threw something at you, and you can actually get out of the road, watch it disappear, and it won't affect you. Everything you come across from here on doesn't belong to you. What belongs to you is you. And you are an endless being with endless prospects and endless possibilities for you to demonstrate in this world. And if you don't want to demonstrate them, you only have to know for yourself that it's true. And a big smile comes on your face and you enjoy every moment. Then the world starts to interact with you in its own way. The aroma of the plants appears when you're inside and you can't even see it. The special things in your life are not special anymore. They're just things. Because the only thing that's special in your life is that great connection between you and your Creator and this future that keeps running around and making you move all the time so that you can try and catch it. And that is what keeps you alive. That's totally all that keeps you alive. Keep chasing your spirit. Keep being as stupid as you like. you'll be a happy, perfect, elevated being that adds to everybody's life, but not just their life, it adds to their capability because of not of what you do for them, but because of your presence. That interaction keeps the movement going, gives more capability, and in fact, technically, it makes a path for all the unknowns to appear in your life. Because an unknown to you, you will not let in. It's like, I'm not going to let a stranger in. But a stranger can come in with a friend. So all the unknowns that jump into your life out of nowhere, they come through this hidden catalytic effect that we all have on one another. And so you never have to bother about where it's coming from, because there's always someone with a gift. And they turn up. They don't even know what the gift is, but it appears in your life because you had an interaction. May it be just a look at someone's eyes when you're walking down the street, or a passing car, or the wind, or someone does something nice. They're all interactions that introduce to you the part of your life that you won't let in. So as we go further, you'll see that there's a contradiction there. You'll feel like you're separating from people, but in fact, you're becoming more interactive. It's a little bit like if you're all going in a convoy in cars and you're going from one town to another and you all try to stick together, it's turmoil, you're late, you're always waiting for someone, there's always something wrong. But if somebody says, I'll see you there, everyone's free to go whatever direction they want, whatever speed they want, even stop if they need to. And you're all fine, you all arrive at the same time. Through the freedom of movement of a natural course that comes to each person. So you can demonstrate it easily in your life. But to demonstrate it to yourself is much better. Because when you demonstrate it in your life, you don't see it, somebody else does. When you demonstrate it to yourself, you see it. And that's when you walk around with a big smile on your face and you don't know what you're going to do with it. Because it won't go away. Even if you hurt yourself, you laugh. It's one of those things that keeps us all not positive, all natural. And the natural part of our being is light-hearted elegance. Extremely light-hearted elegance. And the elegance is beyond anybody's dream. And that's what keeps you standing straight. That's what makes you taller than you normally are. Elegance is the thing that has more power in your physical being than anything you know. It's more powerful than even the worst anger. That elegance can turn away a bullet. And it does. This is where we're standing. And as soon as I talk about it, you can feel it. And it rises up, just like I said, as the essence of free motion. It allows you to move through anything, with anything. And you don't have to consider one thing to turn it on, except yourself. It's not dependent on anything, and it's not anything that even if you switch it off, it's still there. But when you demonstrate it to yourself, it really works on you. And when it works on you, you know that it's worked on everyone else. So you don't have to have any responsibility because it's a natural progression of your own elegance. Excuse me a second. As we drive further into areas that I will show you as we go along, you'll find there's no definition, but you'll be in a better place. You'll be where you don't have to handle anything. Where in a fraction of a second you can switch from, oh, that's terrible, whoa, what a great day. That's called the magic of life. That magic of life is the one that attracts your being instantly, just by saying the words, the magic of life. And you start to look around and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and grows and grows and grows. And you haven't done anything. But that magic is what keeps you, what's the right word? In connection with creativity, not your own creativity, but the creativity of everything around it, of a plant, of a tree, of a flower arrangement, of a computer program, of anything that is attractive to you at any time. And we can go further than that and say that the magic of life is inherent in the growth of everything in this platform that we decided to demonstrate ourselves in. So with that, I think we'll have a short break and be back in about 5 minutes and see what else we can take the lid off. Thank you. Okay, we're back again after walking in front of the camera. We're back online. One of the things that I meant to mention earlier was that during the progression of all these broadcasts, there's a lot of writing and connecting with other realms that happens, where I get information in formats that are really not expressible. Even though the writing you can read and you can get a lot from it, behind it all is a transmission from so many different places that I never know exactly what's going to come out next. This is available to everyone, either writing or speaking or reading or just sitting, in so many different formats that we don't even talk to one another about it. So in revealing that I know exactly what's coming to everyone, I'm revealing that everyone knows exactly what's coming to you. So it's no secret. And it's a perfect thing to talk about, because everybody's interested in what everyone else does, as strange as it may be. Because it's never the same. Nobody is the same as anyone else, or even like them. So as you start to talk to one another at an elevated level about things that don't mean anything, they start to get meaning, because of all the language that we understand that is outside of our native language, as we call it. Because of those things, we can sit here and talk about what we've forgotten, about what is happening now that means nothing, because the future is starting to appear the way we see it. And we're really not controlling anything, we're just bringing it all to light. We had lots of really good names like multidimensional, spiritual, lots of things that we went by that people managed to make rules about. As we open up into the future and we stand in that elegance and use the essences that are available to the senses that we had strange names for, we will then be able to see that we're not as we think we are. We're not just more advanced, we're different. We're not anything like our definitions. We're not meant to be. We're not just physical beings, we're everything. And the art of bringing it all together, not in the totality, but in a beautiful dance that happens every moment, is something to behold if you just stand back a little bit and see that interaction that's happening just in the part of the world that we know, let alone parts that we really know, the parts that we don't speak about. It's possible for us to take one word and turn it into a whole life. And we can do it in an instant. And this is what we've been doing. You get an acronym and turn it into whatever you like. You can say nice, and you get a whole picture. You can turn your head a little bit and say the same thing, you'll get a different picture. Our abilities in those areas are phenomenal. Our way of demonstrating in the world has been captured by measurement. And nothing in this world has a linear measurement, not even the branch on a tree. It's moving all the time. It's changing all the time. And it's changing shape all the time. And you can't compare one branch with another. There's nothing to compare with except maybe it's the same color or close to it. But then when you have a good close look, it's not. So generalization is what has brought us into being general people. Understand the fineness of your elegance and the distance that it can take you in a fraction of a second. You don't ever have a situation. It doesn't exist. That's a name that we built a world around. The second we break free, it falls on the ground, gone. There's nothing holding it together except what we put together. So when we now look at that elegance in a different light and the fact that we're not even the same as what we think we are, what a thrill to start to try and find out what we've got. What a thrill to adventure into those things and see you don't have to shut them down. You have to open them up. You don't generalize. You go into the detail. And not just one detail, every detail. And you find you can make so much out of what you have in a fraction of a second. It can be a lifetime. And that's what happened to most people when they were younger. 3-year-old, 4 maybe, they made a decision. This is how the world is. And then they started to live it. Some did a good job. Some didn't. But when they were that age, just before that age, they played every game, no matter how silly it was. Then after that age, they only played one game. Their definition of life. So we've been playing one game out of 500 million per second that we can play. Nothing wrong with any of it. It's just that now is the time where you can stand on that elevated platform of living. You can feel your own essence. You can feel the movement. You can travel with it. And you can let go. And there it goes. Our natural interconnection switches on. And it feels so great. And nobody did anything. This is where we're going, and this is how we have to live. Because it is the only way you can advance. And if you don't advance and you don't move, you die. And I'm not talking about death of the body. I'm talking about the death of your whole being. And this is not going to happen. We're here to make sure everybody's being is alive, capable, flamboyant, beautiful, everything. And while we do that, our being is that way. This is how it works. I offer you perfect life, perfect health, and a magic future. That's what I get. And if I'm totally, totally bound to presenting that, it's totally bound to presenting it back at me. So the magic of life is far beyond any explanation or any demonstration or anything that anybody can show you in a moment. But that came with us, and we don't need to define it. We just need to explore it more and more and more every moment. And everything we do turns into something beautiful before we even start. So we don't have to measure anything. We know it's turning into something beautiful before we even start. And if you look back, you can compare it to somebody else's measurement and you can get comments and all the rest of it. You know you turned it into something beautiful and you lived it. And then it's gone. Just like yesterday's food. Gone. The replenishment of the cells within your being, not just in your body, within your being, have to be part of your attention. So as you're scanning, you're making sure there's nothing wrong. If there's something out of place, you just fix it. You allow your world to be around you, and it's got to feel right at every angle. If it feels lopsided, you straighten it. If it's got the wrong color, you change it. And you're continually making this world of all sorts of magic and miracles feel right. And that's how it moves and replenishes itself. That's how you make sure that the trees get the right energies, because you've got it balanced. That's how everything around you suits you, because you've got the right balance. You didn't go around and dig everything up and replant everything and cut the walls down and change everything. It gradually changes its own character. And the effort we put into so many things, you probably don't have to do. Many, many times I talk about when I was living alone, I never had to clean. And the place was sparkling. The windows were sparkling, floors, everything. And that was a gift that I gave myself. Don't know why, just did. And it works. How many times do you use appliances and then you find out just after you finish the batteries are flat? They didn't go flat before and you didn't use them up. They are so flat, nothing works. But they kept working while you needed it. They probably worked for weeks while you weren't focused on it. As soon as you focused on it, boom, nothing left. Everything's capable of producing a special magic that makes you smile. Not that you have to prove to anyone else. It's a good story afterwards, but at the time, you're really not even looking at it. It's just normal. And to be able, not to expect, but to be able to know that that is part of your domain is all it takes. So I just pressed a little button there for everyone. As long as you're game enough to say that is part of my domain, it will service you. Good. We'll probably come back to that many times because it's an area that I'm used to. And people look at me like I'm strange, but it's perfect for me. And there'll be many things that are perfect for you, but they need simplicity. Complexity is controlled by the program called simplicity. And simplicity is as simple as you can get. It's like lift the house. It's simple. Complexities of lifting the house, enormous. But the program of simplicity will gather everything and everybody and everything you ever need to lift that house. It exists. That is our program. That is what we brought to this world. And you'll hear me refer to simplicity, but no, it's an actual program. It is what communicates with every universe and brings what is needed into this world in the simplest form possible. And that's what you use to handle impossibilities. Simplicity. So the simplicity in your words, in your feelings, in the way you live, in your expectation, in how ridiculous you are, all adds to the program of simplicity. Like a young child doesn't really care how they get to see grandma. Might be 10,000 miles away. They don't care. But they keep on with the simplicity and they end up there. All the complexities are done by somebody else or some other thing. And the little child knows how to use simplicity. And they're not demanding, they just don't stop. They're positive that that's how it is. And it's like Santa Claus. Santa Claus turns up with presents. The simplicity of the thought and the whole lot drives what they want. And even though you might be physically behind supporting them, you've got to see past your activity and see their initial requirement and the simplicity of it, no matter how complex it is for you. So as we start moving along with doing the impossible in this world, we will be introducing much of the program of simplicity and the art of how each one of you supports that multilateral and multidimensional connection that allows one person to be simple, allows one request to be simple. And the more you interact with your stories, the more confidence you'll gain in the fact that it is your domain. We're going to do a lot of things that are too big for the little crew we've got here. Much too big. But we're going to do it because we said we would. We go about that with the simplicity of a child and the resources of a master. And then you can feel the emotion of your power. It's a power that actually uses every signal that we know of to switch on and interact and move the universe. Just like a mother's protection of her child, nobody can get past that. because it projects out and it frightens even the animals. Where did that come from? The same place where we're going to do the impossible. One simple statement. No. Boom. That's the end of it. Everything within that statement connects to everything anybody can ever think of to try and hurt your child. And the big no comes up, and the forces that are attached to that come down on the person before they can move. So know that we have not only the ability to protect ourselves, we have the ability to make sure that everything changes before it's a threat. And that's done by simplicity. So when you send a beautiful message to somebody about perfect life and perfect health and the magic future, you are very careful that everything is in place, because you know that what you send out is going to come back more than 1,000-fold. And if you've got a glitch in it, it's going to knock you over. If you've got a but in there, it's going to knock you over. If it's not perfectly in balance and what would be the right word? In the light of your personal essence, then you're crazy. You know, you have to be right. And when you look at the power we're talking about, not just your own power, but the responsive power, everything we do multiplies by many, many hundreds of thousands. Everything, even a thought. Because we are so connected and we're such a catalyst for one another, that interactive force becomes a real force. And that's why when people decide to be a little bit aggressive, the whole world comes at it, dumps on them for years. And people walk around saying, wow, I only said such and such. The next thing, the world's blown up. Exactly. Because that is the nature of our being. Unless we're dumbed down to be single and interactive beings, we work the opposite to the forces of the world. Everything we do gets bigger with distance. Our ability to touch people grows with numbers. So it's not a case of you have a fixed capacity. If you're talking to one person, you're talking to hundreds of thousands of people. And because now you have that freedom of movement, it's probably stronger to the person over the road than it is to the person you're talking to. The further you go, the more effect you have. So if you look at it from a negative point of view, you say, oh, I have to be careful. If you look at it from a positive point of view, you go, wow, I can send out more and it'll get bigger and I'll feel better. Fantastic. And it lifts you off the ground. On this special day of Mother's Day, everybody's lifting one another off the ground. We do that every day. And it was, all you needed was a reason. Now the reason is you. Not some programmed event. The reason is you. That's why you came. That's why you can penetrate the whole world and beyond in a fraction of a second. Got another lizard. So where we're going is far beyond what you thought originally. And this is only the start. We intend to actually do some impossible things and involve everybody. And not hold anybody to anything. And make sure that we don't ever do the same thing twice or work with anything that's already been done. We'll enhance them, but we won't work with them. We'll make sure that our communication is better than anything they can produce. Right now we're using equipment and technology that's right up there with the best. And we're pushing past that. And we're looking at why haven't they done the things that we know they can do. Because we all know about it. We all know that all this is great, but it's way behind what we've seen. And so as we all look and investigate, all the information will start coming to each person. You won't know what it is initially, but it's great. As you start to talk to one another, people will get interested and it'll grow. And you'll build a world out of what comes to you. And you'll present it. And we'll all live it. And then the character of your being will be in tune with the nature of who you are. So that's about it for today. Thank you so once again. And I'm sure we'll all be able to interact much more easily after today. So have a great Mother's Day to everyone, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.